Hello there, and welcome to Dream Myths. Tonight, we begin a journey back through the sands of time to ancient Egypt. We will embody the experience of a young scribe's apprentice in a land of timeless wonders. Before we embark, please settle into a comfortable position wherever you are. Take a moment to allow your body to find a perfect state of rest. Inhale deeply and slowly through your nose. As you exhale, simply feel the day's concerns and activities beginning to recede. With each breath, you will find yourself sinking deeper into a state of profound relaxation, allowing your body to become heavy and perfectly still. Imagine a gentle wave of tranquility washing over you, starting at your toes. Feel it move slowly upward through your feet, your legs, your hips, and your back. Allow every part of you to come entirely to rest. This feeling of serene calm flows upward through your chest, your arms, your neck, and finally your head. There is no need for deep concentration. Simply allow my voice to carry you along. As your breathing becomes steady and effortless, prepare to drift with me to a time of ancient marvels, where a gentle tale awaits you. The massive brass key turned with a satisfying metallic click in the ancient lock. Eliza Thorne pushed open the heavy oak door of Tempest Lighthouse, stepping across the threshold from the brisk coastal air into the stillness of the interior. A complex aroma greeted her, a scent that was both immediate and historical. The air held the sharp, clean fragrance of lemon oil used for polishing, mingled with the dry, comforting scent of old books. But underlying these was something else, the indefinable aroma of time itself, the dense, accumulated weight of generations spent within these walls. The atmosphere felt almost viscous, a silent record of countless years. The main floor presented itself precisely as Eliza recalled, a sanctuary of enduring familiarity. The floorboards, polished smooth by decades of passage, met a sturdy, time-worn desk and walls lined with built-in shelves. A pair of reading glasses, perched precisely where they had been left, rested upon the desk, a poignant reminder of Margaret Thorne, who had passed away just 3 weeks prior. The lighthouse, however, did not feel empty. Instead, it felt infused with a silent presence, an undeniable sensation of being watched. The structure seemed not merely to exist, but to be actively aware of her arrival. The lawyer's precise, measured words resonated persistently in Eliza's mind. Margaret Thorne's will stipulated an unequivocal condition. Eliza was required to serve as the resident lighthouse keeper for a minimum of 1 year. Only upon completion of this obligation could she assume full possession of the property or pursue its sale. This requirement, though seemingly archaic in an era of automated navigation systems, was legally binding. Despite the inherent oddity of the stipulation, Eliza viewed it as a pragmatic arrangement. Having recently lost her own employment, the inheritance offered a pathway toward crucial financial security and a profound freedom from debt. She accepted the terms as a reasonable, necessary bargain. Eliza's gaze fell upon a glass-fronted cabinet within which resided dozens of leather-bound journals spanning a century of meticulous record-keeping. The collection included the volume belonging to her grandmother. She withdrew the final volume, anticipating the familiar, graceful script of Margaret Thorne. Instead, she was met with a text that was utterly incomprehensible. The letters appeared to be English, yet they seemed to flow and shift before her eyes, deliberately defying her attempts at comprehension. It was a strange, unsettling cipherous script that resembled language yet remained fundamentally unreadable. A quick survey of the earlier volumes revealed that this cryptic inscription had been present throughout the century, a silent, enduring mystery. Eliza located the official lighthouse logs, a sharp contrast to the incomprehensible journals. These records were entirely legible, containing practical entries regarding routine maintenance, meticulous weather observations, and the movements of passing vessels. Her attention was drawn to a nearby ornate cabinet, intricately carved with motifs of waves and stars. Within this cabinet, nestled in velvet compartments, she discovered a collection of crystal prisms. These polished artifacts seemed to hum with a quiet energy, yet Eliza dismissed them entirely, viewing them simply as another of her grandmother's charming, if peculiar, eccentricities. A subtle, persistent sense of unease began to settle over Eliza. She felt a profound intuition that she was overlooking a crucial element, a vital piece of the lighthouse's purpose. The phone call from the real estate agent, inquiring about finalizing the sale of the property, felt jarring. It elicited an unexpected sense of disloyalty within her, as if considering the transaction was a betrayal of the atmosphere and history of the lighthouse itself. Putting aside these unsettling thoughts, Eliza focused on the immediate task of settling in. She began to unpack her belongings in the keeper's quarters, finding them surprisingly comfortable and equipped with modern amenities that blended seamlessly with the historical structure. Eliza ascended the winding spiral staircase, the rhythm of her footsteps echoing softly against the iron steps. She emerged into the lantern room, the heart of the lighthouse. Consulting the operational manual, she quickly familiarized herself with the controls and activated the automated system. The machinery hummed to life, and the central lens began its mesmerizing rotation. The powerful beam of light initiated its steady, deliberate sweep, cutting across the dark waters of the sea every 7.5 seconds. Observing the rotating beam, Eliza felt a strange, inexplicable connection to the generations of keepers who had manned this post before her. A quiet sense of continuity settled over her, a feeling of being a part of an unbroken lineage. Eliza dedicated her initial days to familiarizing herself with the lighthouse's maintenance routines and fulfilling her remote work obligations. She observed that the local inhabitants of the coastal town maintained a distinct and reserved distance. On her third evening, as she observed the sea from the lantern room, she noticed a figure in a small cove below as the lighthouse beam swept over the area. The figure, a man clad in dark clothing, appeared to be engaged with instruments. Yet, he was only present for a fleeting moment. He vanished instantly as the light passed, only to reappear with the next sweep of the beam. The effect was eerie, akin to watching a stuttering film projection, a series of brief, spectral glimpses. Eliza quickly retrieved a pair of binoculars, focusing them on the cove below. At precisely 9:17, he materialized again. Through the lens, the figure became distinct. He was clad in clothing that was profoundly outdated, suggesting an era long past. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, characterized by a neatly trimmed beard. The man held a pocket watch in one hand, examining it intently, while with the other, he meticulously recorded notes in a small, leather-bound book. The following morning, Eliza hiked down to the cove, searching for any trace of the man. The area was empty. There were no footprints, no indication of equipment, nothing to suggest a presence the night before. That evening, she returned to her vigil. At precisely 9:17, the figure materialized once more. He was now clearly visible, clad in a heavy coat, high boots, and a flat cap, clothing entirely consistent with the late 19th century. Driven by a need for answers, Eliza embarked on historical research at the town library. The archives yielded a startling revelation. The figure was Thomas Thorne, the lighthouse keeper of Tempest Lighthouse from 1891 to 1896. A faded photograph confirmed his identity. Local records praised him for his success in preventing numerous shipwrecks, but noted his mysterious disappearance after just 4 years of service. A deeper search revealed an astonishing detail. Thomas Thorne was her own great-great-granduncle. Despite the Lighthouse Manual's explicit warnings against interrupting the rotation of the beam, Eliza meticulously designed a temporary brake mechanism. This modification was intended to hold the light steady. When the figure materialized again, she engaged the modification, fixing the beam of light steadily on the cove below. The effect was instantaneous and profound. Thomas Thorne became distinctly more solid, shedding his spectral appearance and becoming fully present. He noticed the unwavering beam, his gaze lifting toward the lantern room high above him. Eliza descended the winding stairs with haste, drawn toward the cove, guided by the fixed, unwavering beam of light. As she approached, she saw him clearly. Thomas Thorne was waiting. He observed her with a quiet recognition, a knowing expression settling on his face. "Another Thorne," he stated simply. "I have wondered when someone would finally discover the light's true purpose." Eliza, recovering from the shock of his materialization, confirmed his identity and introduced herself, revealing the current year was 2025. Thomas accepted the information with remarkable calm. He explained that they were not occupying the same moment in time. Rather, the lighthouse beam acted as a unique temporal bridge, a conduit that only those of the Thorne lineage could traverse. The temporary brake disengaged automatically, and the powerful beam of light resumed its steady rotation across the dark waters. Instantly, Thomas began to fade, his form dissolving back into brief spectral flashes. Before he disappeared entirely, he instructed Eliza to return the following evening. Eliza made her way back to the lighthouse, her mind reeling with unanswered questions. She sat at the desk, attempting once more to decipher her grandmother's journals. Yet, despite her efforts, the cryptic text remained elusive, defying all attempts at comprehension. The mystery of the lighthouse deepened with the encroaching night. Eliza returned to the lantern room the following evening and installed a more robust brake mechanism, complete with a timer. When Thomas materialized in the cove below, she hurried down to meet him and posed the central question: how was this phenomenon possible? Thomas explained that Tempest Lighthouse was constructed at a unique location where the flow of time was inherently strange. This temporal distortion created echoes of the past, which the lighthouse's specialized lens illuminated. He further noted that the Thorne family had been chosen as keepers due to a rare sensitivity to these phenomena. allowing them to perceive patterns in the temporal echoes that remained invisible to others. Thomas explained the secret of the journals to Eliza. The cipher was not intended to be read by ordinary light. It required a specific crystal prism to refract the lighthouse beam directly onto the papyrus. Under this precise illumination, the previously chaotic text stabilized, revealing itself to possess multiple layers of profound meaning. Thomas revealed that every keeper, through their own insights and experiences, contributed to this evolving understanding, meticulously passing on their knowledge to the Thornes who would follow. Eliza delved into the journals, uncovering the true, unsettling history of Tempest Point, a place where devastating disasters recurred in predictable cycles. She realized that the lighthouse was not merely a beacon, but a tool that allowed keepers to recognize these cyclical patterns and intervene before catastrophe struck. Thomas explained that while his predecessor had begun to grasp the initial threads of understanding, he himself had fully comprehended the lighthouse's profound potential, the ability to perceive how events echoed through time and recurred if left uninterrupted. Eliza meticulously studied her grandmother's detailed entries, documenting a lifetime of subtle interventions and preventative actions. She noticed recurring observations from 15 years prior, describing conditions remarkably similar to those that had preceded the catastrophic Great Tempest of 1895. Thomas confirmed the pattern, noting that the cycle repeated roughly every 100 to 200 years, and that a new iteration of the storm was now imminent. They began meticulously tracking signs that were invisible to conventional modern monitoring systems. Minute patterns in tidal flows, subtle shifts in unusual wildlife behavior, and specific, recurring cloud formations. Eliza recognized the profound significance of these observations. Her grandmother had clearly foreseen the approaching cycle and ensured a Thorne descendant would be present at the lighthouse to intervene. While studying the complex tidal patterns using the crystal prisms, Eliza experienced a startling temporal glimpse. She saw her grandmother, younger than she had ever known her, standing at the cove alongside an elderly version of Thomas. Thomas explained that each keeper connects with him at different points in his lifespan. He emphasized that time flows strangely around the lighthouse. The light itself remains the essential key, a constant amidst the temporal distortion. As the subtle signs intensified, Eliza and Thomas recognized the unmistakable approach of the cyclical storm. Thomas noted with concern that the recurring patterns were accelerating, a consequence of modern human development altering the coastline, Eliza meticulously constructed warnings, synthesizing the historical patterns from the journals with modern scientific principles. She presented these findings to the town authorities. Initially met with skepticism, her predictions were validated when the first unusual tides appeared exactly as she had foretold. Public attention shifted immediately, and more residents began to heed her warnings. The storm struck at dawn, a tempest of immense destructive force. Thanks to Eliza's timely interventions, fishing boats were secured in the harbor, and all low-lying areas were successfully evacuated. Despite the significant structural damage inflicted by the storm, there was zero loss of life. Eliza finally understood the profound importance of the lighthouse. Certain patterns, particularly those of recurrence and disaster, could only be perceived by those with a perspective that spanned generations. Thomas elaborated, explaining that the lighthouse stood as a sentinel against numerous destructive cycles, not just the single tempest they had just navigated. Eliza contemplated the strange vital duty she had inherited, the responsibility of watching for temporal patterns that remained invisible to the rest of the world. As her mandatory year of service approached its conclusion, Eliza faced a pivotal decision: to liquidate the property and return to her former life, or to accept the solemn responsibility of her heritage. Eliza returned to the cove, meeting Thomas for what she knew would be their final encounter. She delivered her decision. She was staying. Thomas nodded slowly, a quiet acknowledgement of her choice. He remarked that the lighthouse possesses its own will, selecting its keepers as much as they select it. When the mechanism resumed its rotation, Eliza was granted a profound glimpse. She saw other figures at the cove, spectral yet distinct, including her grandmother and countless other Thornes from various eras. They stood together, united by a common, enduring purpose that transcended time itself. Thomas explained to Eliza that keepers at Tempest Point are never truly alone, emphasizing that every individual who is served here leaves an indelible mark in the light itself. He instructed her on her new task: to diligently learn the recurring patterns of the lighthouse and to meticulously record her observations so that future Thornes would understand. He underscored a profound point: that the light could sometimes illuminate the future, not just the past. That very night, Eliza formally declined the real estate offer. She sat at her grandmother's desk and began a new journal, utilizing the cipher Thomas had taught her. She wrote that the lighthouse served as a bridge between times, its light connecting past and future generations. She added her observations to those who had come before her, and those who would follow in her path. Outside, the powerful beam of light turned steadily, illuminating the dark waters of the sea, connecting generations in its eternal, unwavering sweep.